Hello, friends. My name is Deepak, and I am a tax code advisor. Yesterday, I had a question from a client who was wondering what is the better option? Should they pay down their mortgage or should they invest? Which option will have a better outcome? And I shared my analysis and why I feel they're better off investing. So I got a follow up question today as to, well, if you feel that way, why do people actually pay down mortgages? Why does um, Dave Ramsey says that pay down your mortgage, and so many other gurus talk about that as well. Like there's a he was referring to this advisor, that particular influencer, and so forth. Like all of these people can't be wrong. They're giving good advice. They've been around for a long time. So he goes like, well, give me some arguments as to why these people advise people to pay down their mortgage. So I'm going to share what I hear from people in my practice who have paid down their mortgage. And if you disagree with it, then leave your comments and I will try to answer those for you. Or, we can go into comment battle if you want. Okay. And then I will also try to explain you why I disagree with the reasons that I receive from clients, and hopefully this will clarify this matter even further. So, number one reason people tell me that they are paying down their mortgage is because they want more financial flexibility, meaning they want to be able to retire, they want to be able to travel, they want to give good education to their kids, they want to be able to do more savings, they want to be able to do more investments, they want to be able to go back to school, they want to be able to, give it to charity. So they have all kinds of things they want to do with the money. And that's the reason why they want to pay down the mortgage. At least that's what they tell me. But in reality, none of those are real reasons. In reality, when I dig deeper with clients in an actual conversation, what they tell me is that, Deepak, honestly speaking, I'm in my 40s or 50s, and I don't know if I'll be able to keep this job for next 20 years. I have a feeling that with the AI and some of the other advancements in technology, I might lose my job. And that's why I want to pay down the mortgage so that way, if something goes wrong, at least I have an asset that I can depend on. Nobody can kick me out of the home. So I think the real reason why people pay down the mortgage is fear. They're fearful that they might not have income in future. And there's a problem because if that's the root cause, then we need to solve that problem. If we start fixing a problem that doesn't even exist, then perhaps we're wasting our time and more than likely are not going to get a good outcome. So I'll explain more some of these reasons in more detail why people are confused about it. But I think that's the number one thing that always come up in conversation, that people have plans for all this money, but in reality they're just afraid. So you talk to in your neighborhood somebody in their 40s and 50s, and you ask them, they'll tell you. And honestly speaking, I think the fear of losing job in your 40s and 50s, perhaps even in 60s, is always there. I think our parents probably have it. Everybody have it. When we're young, we think, we're going to change the world. And by the time we are in our 50s, we realize there are other people changing the world way faster than we are. And we start to get worried because honestly speaking, now we know more. When we are younger, we just overestimate our abilities. But by the time we are in our 40s and 50s, we realize what we are truly capable of. But I have two problems with that. Number one problem is most of us are not good at estimating. I have met so many people who thought that they were not good or they're going to lose their job or something like that. And 5 years, 10 years later, they build wonderful businesses. Wonderful. Even the people who got fired from job, even people who were not good at their job, they will come tell me like, oh my God, I'm working there, but I'm not really good at it. That person is good. That person. And a few years later, they have wonderful businesses. They're making 10 times more money than they ever made at their work. So we're so bad at estimating our own abilities. So that's why this fear is a problem. Number two, we're talking about a hypothetical situation that hasn't even happened yet. So why are we fearful for a situation that may or may not happen is beyond my imagination. I don't think we should be solving problems that don't exist. We need to solve problems that do exist. So that's why I don't really like the idea of paying down mortgage because the why behind it is often wrong and people are confused. And, why do people actually do it? A, they're afraid, and then B, they hear all kind of stories. They hear stories of people who have paid down their mortgage and now they're retired, they're having fun, and they're talking about all the great stories, which is all good, but that's not the only path. You could have achieved the same results by not paying down the mortgage. So if somebody tells you, well, the only way to do this is to pay down the mortgage, that's a problem. Now, these advisors might not even say it. I shouldn't even say advisors, maybe influencers, because these are the people you're getting this information from. If they tell you something, we just assume that that is the only way. But in reality, that is not the only way. I have seen people achieving financial freedom by having a business, by having a mortgage, by even buying cars. So a lot of time people say, well, buying car is a bad thing because it costs a lot of money, it's a depreciating asset and all that kind of stuff. But I know people who got rich by buying cars. How? That's a story for a different day. So one thing for sure, get your why right. That's number one. Number two, people think that by paying down their mortgage, they will have less stress. And obviously they will have more freedom. Like I said earlier, they want to be able to do whatever they want to do. So my question to them would be is, where is the stress coming from? Is it coming from the mortgage company because obviously you're making all the payments on time? Because if you're not making payments on time, we wouldn't have a mortgage problem. They would foreclose on your house. So where is the stress coming from? The stress is coming from either fear, or stress is coming from because you're not earning enough, or you're just at a wrong place. So, for example, if you're not making at least 30% more than your overall expenses, and when I say expenses, I include your 401k accounts, I include your Roth IRA account, I include your mortgage, I include your car payments, your insurance, your, whatever you might be paying for your kids' education, your food, your travel. After paying everybody, you should be having 30% of your income available to you to do whatever you want to do. Now, if you don't have that, then I understand you have a freedom problem. And to solve that freedom problem, if you work on income side of the equation rather than the expense side of the equation. Now, even in expense side, we often divide things in two ways, good expenses and bad expenses. So bad expenses, it's a good idea to work on, but good expenses like mortgage, as long as it's a reasonable price mortgage, you don't have to spend so much time on it. So you need to figure out how can you increase that income. If you if you're not able to increase that income, then maybe you need to look at what is missing. There got to be other people making more money in your company or in the field you are in. Or if, let's say if you don't want to pursue the field, maybe you need to find a different field. Maybe you need to start a side hustle. Maybe you need to start a business. Maybe you need to buy a business. You need to get something that is producing income. So let's go back and do a quick math. Let's say if you pay down the mortgage, it produces $2,000 extra in your pocket. That's $24,000. Is there a business that you can buy today that can generate $24,000 or more in net income? That means the business is being operated by employees, you don't have to be involved, and it produces $24,000 or more. If the answer is yes, and you can buy it at the right price, then that's a better strategy than actually paying down the mortgage because you can increase that income. With mortgage, there's not much. Once you pay down, what are you going to do? That's the income. It's not like you can charge double the rent or anything like that. But in business, you can. You can grow a business exponentially. For example, my tax practice, if I want more customers, I can advertise on YouTube. I can advertise on Facebook, on Instagram, local events. I can talk to other people to drive traffic. I mean, how much business I get is mostly limited by my own calendar, how much business I'm willing to take. So, but business can grow unlimited. So that's why I like business is better than paying down the mortgage. So my point is here is you think that paying down the mortgage, you'll be less stressful. But in reality, I don't think stress is coming from mortgage to begin with. Stress is coming from somewhere else. So look into that, where that stress is coming from, and let's work on fixing that problem first. Next reason people tell me is that if they are able to pay off the mortgage in next 10 years or whatever their number is, they are going to retire right afterwards or maybe 4, 5, 10 years later. So they kind of put this paying off mortgage as the step one than anything else. Again, they're way too focused on the mortgage aspect. They're not focused on their overall financial freedom. I agree that by having less expenses, you will have an asset that will be able to pay off your expenses. I agree with that. That's not a bad statement. However, do you even know what your financial freedom number looks like? Do you even know if this property that you're living in would be able to pay off your expenses in your retirement years? Have you calculated all the expenses that you might have to deal with? So I think before you arrive at that conclusion, you should know what your financial freedom number looks like. Now, if you want to kind of get an idea, I did a video earlier and I did a live case study and I showed um, exactly how much money somebody would need. You can go watch that video. I'll put a link below this video in the description. But you should know that number. If you don't know it, I can definitely help you calculate it. But that's step one. And then step two, we should also analyze what are the various ways of achieving that number. I mean, if you were going, let's say, from California to New York, wouldn't you take the shortest path first? Now, you might say, well, yeah, but I would not want to take a path that goes through mountains and snow or, go through the oceans or something like that. I'm with you. Then you take the next best path possible. But you still want to explore various paths. Why would you stick with just one path? So if somebody told you that, oh, the only way to financial freedom is by paying down the mortgage, why do that? Why not explore other options? Why not talk to some people? I'm not saying talk to me, but talk to some people and kind of get an idea what options are out there. Ask them, hey, I'm thinking about paying down the mortgage. What are other options? What else can I do with that money? And what would it look like 10 years from now? And see if the mortgage makes sense or if something else makes sense. So this whole idea about early retirement, people often get completely wrong because they're overly relying on one asset. We need to be diversified. We need to, look at assets that are better performing assets. We also need to look at the number itself. What is that goal? Where do we need to go? Consider all kind of things, the tax implications, the medical part of things, maybe you have some obligations to your grandkids or your children, look at that. Maybe you have some liabilities, look at all that. So anyhow, my main point is don't get overly focused on paying down the mortgage. Another common answer I get is once I pay off the mortgage, I am going to rent the property that I'm living in and I'm going to move to a different country, maybe to Caribbean or Mexico or India or China or somewhere else in Asia. Thailand is another common one I hear. People, sometimes even Europe, by the way. I think a couple times, a couple clients moved to Italy. I think one guy moved to Barcelona. So people go wherever they want to go. But the idea is that the cost of living is cheaper over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move there afterwards. 2 points. Number one, why can't you move there today? Is the rental market not good today in your market? And suddenly 5 years from now, once you have paid off the mortgage, it's going to become better. If rental doesn't make sense today and you think that's going to make sense 5 years from now, you're probably deceiving yourself. So if it's going to make sense in future, it should make sense today. So if you think your quality of life going to be better in Thailand or Barcelona or somewhere else, then I suggest that you go there now, try 6 months, a year, and make sure that you are on the right path. Last thing you want to do is relying on that one idea, and then you move and then you realize, wait a minute, I don't want to be here. I want to be back there. And now you have lost the precious time that you could have used to grow your investments, to grow your rate of return, and now you're just stuck in a place that you don't understand, you don't even want to be there. So again, a bad situation. When people think about different countries, they don't truly understand them. They don't understand the taxation of that country. They don't even understand the taxation of this country. So how can they possibly understand the taxation of the other country? It takes time. When you go there, you talk to people, maybe a few years, you will realize how the taxation look like. So learn that now. What about medical? How does the medical look like? Where's your family? Would you come to visit them? They would come to visit you. So this whole quality of life question, I think, don't wait until you retire to figure all that out. Figure all that out today and then decide which way to go. Safety and security is another common response I get from people that, if I get unemployed, if there's a market downturn or something like that, like for example, during COVID, or sometimes we think, like dot-com crash or some sort of recession, we were expecting that it's going to happen last year, but didn't happen. Some people said it's going to happen this year, but didn't happen. Now people are saying it's going to happen next year. Who knows whether it happens or not? But the idea here is people say, look, if something like that happens, then I feel more safe with the real estate that is fully paid off. So this idea is not bad, but once again, I think you need to look at it from different point of view. And that different point of view would be is what is that mortgage saving? Let's say if you were to pay off that mortgage altogether right now. So what would that savings look like? Is it $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month? Let's say it's $2,000 a month. That means it's $2,000 a month. And let's just say if that's the only thing you care about, although I think we should look at it a little bit more, we should also look at your other expenses, like your food expenses, your any other commitments that you might have going on. So we should be looking at all that. But the idea here is your real worry is not so much about losing a job. Your real question here is what kind of emergency funding I should have in case something goes wrong. And oftentimes people only look at it from a recession or unemployment point of view, but there are many other reasons. For example, um, although I don't get too many young people asking for advice, usually I wish they do because I think I'll be way more helpful to them because they have so much time to do things in their life. But for example, a lot of young women in their 20s and 30s, when I look at their, it happens during the comprehensive consultation, but when I look at their benefit programs, so many times I see that the company is offering them short-term disability, and so many women deny it. And I'm like, why? If you guys have kids, you can use this disability. Why are you denying this benefit that your company is providing? So, that's one example of somebody can be out of job for a time being. Maybe you get sick, maybe there's a accident or something like that. Maybe there's a problem in family. So there could be a lot of reasons why you can possibly lose the job. It's not just because of unemployment or recession. So I think the real thing you should really focus on what kind of emergency funding we should have and how are we going to build it. So a lot of time people think building emergency funding in terms of putting money in a bank account. That is just such a wrong way of doing it. There are just so many other ways to do it, which are, way better and that can generate not just emergency funding, but they can also help you securely retire as well. So I don't think the question here is really so much about paying down the mortgage because you will still have other expenses. You will still have to buy food. You will still have to travel. Your expenses don't disappear when you pay down the mortgage. So I think once again, people who are focused on paying down the mortgage, they miss that argument as well that we need to work on emergency fundings more than anything else. Let's see. Another example, I think other thing people often tell me is once I pay down the mortgage, I'm going to start contributing to community a lot more. I'm going to provide food. I'm going to provide education to people. I'm going to donate to my church, or I'm going to go certain places. Now, the real thing is, are you telling me that you're going to donate the entire amount or some percentage of that amount? That's one thing. But let's just say, even if it's the entire amount, then the only way you'll be able to do that is if you are financially free, if all the other numbers make sense. Because if you're unstable at that time, then you're still not going to donate. So once again, I go back to what I said earlier. Why wait for the day when you have paid off the mortgage? Why can't we solve that problem today? Why can't you be financially free today? So those are the common things people tell me. Um, and then in addition to that, like I said, I personally have problem with paying down the mortgage because it increases your liability, increases your risk. You lose out some tax benefits because of that. And I I truly believe you can actually do way better with your money than paying down the mortgage. So, um, if you guys have any other argument that I didn't address, or there's a benefit that you feel that is important, other than what I just talked about, then please put in the comments and we can discuss that. If you have a question, concern that you would like me to talk about, because I love doing case studies, that's my favorite way, and it gives me a lot of content to build. So thank you so much for sharing those questions. Just send it my way. If you put the questions in the comments, or if you're part of any one of my groups, then you can just reach out to me and I'll try to address those questions using this video method. If I can help you become financially free and answer any of your questions, then do not hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you.